500 million? The young man's voice cut to the marble-lined hall, the corners of his mouth curling into a smirk. She actually thinks we will give that much to her? His accent was polished, his tone sharp, dripping with condescension. A ripple of laughter traveled down the table lined with men in crisp white robes and designer watches. The sound wasn't casual, it was mocking, deliberate, a performance meant to humiliate. Maya Richardson didn't flinch. She sat at the far end of the long mahogany table, navy suit pressed to perfection, her laptop glowing with slides that had taken her and her team months to prepare. Behind her, the massive screen displayed the hard numbers, a 5-year projection of exponential growth. Graphs that climbed like rockets, patterns worth entire nations' GDPs, contracts already secured in Asia and Europe. But the room wasn't looking at the screen. The room was looking at her. Sheikh Khalid Al-Hassan, patriarch of the family and worth billions, leaned back in his chair, stroking the edge of his prayer beads. His expression was calm, but the faint amusement in his eyes betrayed the thoughts running behind them. He raised a hand, and the laughter died instantly, the power he commanded filling the air like oxygen. "Miss Richardson," he said, his English smooth and deliberate. "Perhaps you misunderstand. Partnerships of this magnitude, they are not for everyone. They are for men of standing, of legacy, not ambitious outsiders." There it was. Outsider. The word stung not because she hadn't heard it before, but because she always did. Different boardrooms, different cities, same word. Outsider. Maya placed her pen on the table and leaned forward, her voice calm, measured, but laced with steel. "With all due respect, Sheikh Khalid, business doesn't care about legacy. It cares about results. And I deliver results." For the first time, the Sheikh's lips tightened, but his eldest son leaned closer, whispering something in Arabic. Maya caught it. "She thinks she's one of us." Another round of snickers. That was the moment. Maya closed her laptop with a snap that cracked like thunder in a silent hall. Every eye turned to her. She stood, the scrape of her chair loud against the polished floor. "Gentlemen," she said, sweeping the table with her gaze, "this meeting is over." One of the cousins nearly choked. "Excuse me? You would walk away from $500 million. She locked eyes with him. "I don't work with people who laugh at me. Not for $500 million. Not for $500 billion. And then she turned, heels clicking against the marble, the weight of her defiance echoing louder than their money ever could. "Now let me ask you, what would you do in her place? Would you stay and swallow the insult just to secure the money, or would you walk away to protect your dignity? Comment below. I want to know your answer. And if you're hooked already, smash that like button, hit subscribe, because this story is just beginning, and trust me, you don't want to miss part 2. As Maya pushed open the tall carved doors and left the room in stunned silence, her mind spun back to how she had even ended up in that gilded palace in the first place. Because this moment wasn't just about a business deal. It was about everything she had fought for her entire life. Maya Richardson was not supposed to be here. Not by the world's standards. She had grown up on the south side of Atlanta, in a neighborhood where broken streetlights outnumbered working ones, where her mother came home from a night shift at 6 a.m. and still had to pack her kids' lunches before collapsing into bed. Her father had left when she was 9. Her first computer hadn't come from a shiny Apple store. It came from a garage sale, missing keys and barely holding together. But that old machine became her world. By 15, she was teaching herself to code by flashlight during power outages. By 19, she had scholarships rolling in from universities that had once ignored kids from her zip code. She turned down the safe path. Instead of working for a tech giant, she started building her own software, brick by brick, sleepless night by sleepless night. Her company, Novatech, was born in a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and noisy neighbors. By the time she was 28, it had already disrupted industries. By 32, it was valued in the billions. And yet, every single boardroom looked at her the same way the Sheikh's sons just had. Doubt, disdain, outsider. That's why this deal mattered. $500 million wasn't just about money. It was about expanding into the Middle East, about breaking barriers in a region where women, especially women like her, rarely sat at the negotiating table. And now, that deal lay in ashes because she refused to bow her head. Would you have walked away too? Or would you have bitten your tongue, endured the humiliation, just to secure your company's future? Think about it. It's not an easy choice. Let me know in the comments. And while you think, don't forget, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of Maya's story. Because this wasn't the end. In fact, it was only the beginning of the firestorm. As Maya left the palace, her phone buzzed relentlessly. Reporters had caught wind of the meeting. Rumors were already spreading that the deal had collapsed, that the Al Hassan family had rejected her proposal, that Novatech's expansion was now in jeopardy. She knew by the time she landed back in New York, headlines would already be circulating. But here's what no one in that room realized. Maya hadn't just walked away from $500 million. She had taken something far more valuable with her. She had taken control. Because deep down, she already had a backup plan. What do you think that plan was? How does someone reject $500 million and still come out stronger? But before you go, make sure you've hit like, tap that subscribe button, and turn on the bell, because this story is about to twist in ways no one saw coming. The sliding glass doors of Dubai International Airport hissed shut behind Maya, and for the first time that night, she allowed herself to exhale. The city lights flickered across the black windows of her car, skyscrapers glowing like fire against the desert night. She should have felt broken. She should have felt defeated. She had just walked away from the biggest deal of her career, $500 million, gone in an instant. But instead, she felt something different. Freedom. Her assistant, David, slid into the seat across from her in the private lounge. Maya, what the hell happened in there? His voice was low, urgent, almost panicked. The press already knows. They're saying the Sheikh's family rejected you. They're saying you embarrassed yourself. Maya pulled the pin from her hair and let it fall against her shoulders. Let them say whatever they want. We know the truth. David ran a hand over his face. Yeah, but perception is reality in this industry. By the time we land in New York, investors are going to be calling. Stock could take a hit. This isn't just about your pride. Maya, it's about survival. She met his gaze. Calm, unshaken. David, survival has never come from begging people who laugh at you. If they want to see me fail, they're going to be waiting a very long time. Her phone buzzed again. Another journalist. Another comment request. She ignored it. But deep down, she knew the storm was already brewing. And here's the part one wants you to think about. Would you have done what Maya did? Walked away from money to keep your dignity? Or would you have swallowed the insult, signed the deal, and worried about respect later? Comment your answer. I want to see who's honest. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe while you're here, because we're just getting started. By the time Maya boarded her flight, social media was already ablaze. Hashtags with her name were trending. Some praised her. Queen Energy, unstoppable, teaching billionaires a lesson. Others mocked her. Screenshots of her walking out of the palace were already circulated with captions like she threw away $500 million, and arrogance will kill her company. She scrolled once, then shut her phone off. She had no interest in feeding the noise, because what nobody outside her circle knew was this. She had been preparing for that exact outcome for months. You see, while the world thought Maya was desperate for Arab oil money, the truth was she had something bigger in motion. A rival billionaire family in Qatar had been watching the negotiations closely, and they didn't just want a piece of Novatech. They wanted the whole future of artificial intelligence that Maya was building. And if you think Maya was about to let a room full of men laughing at her define her company's future, you don't know her at all. But here's the twist. Walking away wasn't just business. It was personal. Because Maya had been mocked like this before. Not by billionaires in robes, but by venture capitalists in tailored suits back in Silicon Valley. Years earlier, when she was still raising her first $5 million in seed money, one investor had told her, "You're impressive, but you don't look like a tech founder. You look like someone who should be assisting one." That memory still burned. And tonight in Dubai, when the Sheikh's son leaned back with that smirk, when the word outsider slipped through those perfect teeth, Maya had felt the same sting. And she promised herself years ago she would never, ever beg again. Now here's a question for you. How many of you have ever been underestimated, laughed at, or told you didn't belong? Be honest. Share your story in the comments, because this channel isn't just about listening. It's about connecting. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe right now, because stories like this one are why we exist. Back on the flight, David kept pacing the aisle. Maya, think about the numbers. Our stock is tied to perception. You walk away from $500 million. Investors panic. You know this game. She finally turned to him, her voice sharp but not angry. David, do you know what panic looks like? Panic looks like building your entire company on the approval of men who think you're beneath them. That's not strategy. That's suicide. The cabin went quiet. Even the flight attendants pretended not to hear. She opened her laptop again. On the screen, a confidential file. Project Horizon. Contracts, drafts, encrypted messages. A plan so bold, even David hadn't seen the full scope. Maya's lips curved into a small, quiet smile. They think I need them. They have no idea what's coming. But here's the thing. While Maya was strong, fearless, almost untouchable in that moment, there was still one person she feared disappointing. Her mother, the woman who had raised her on nothing, who had cleaned offices at night so Maya could buy her first coding books. Her mother had always said, "Baby, don't ever let anyone tell you what you're worth. You decide that for yourself." And tonight, walking out of that palace, Maya had lived those words. Would your mother be proud of the choice you'd make? That's the real question. Think about it. And while you do, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because the next move Maya makes will either crown her as one of the boldest CEOs of her generation or destroy everything she's built. By the time the jet touched down in New York, the firestorm had only grown. CNN, Bloomberg, BBC, everyone was running the same story. Black CEO walks out on era Billionaires. $500 million deal dead. Anchors debated whether she was courageous or reckless. Panels of experts, mostly men who had never built a company themselves, speculated on whether Novatech could survive. And just as David predicted, the stock opened 12% lower. But Maya didn't flinch. She was already 3 steps ahead, because waiting for her in Manhattan was a secret meeting. Not with oil billionaires this time, but with a coalition of private equity firms, venture capitalists, and one very unexpected ally who had been following her story from the shadows. Someone with even more power than the Al Hassan dynasty. And here's where I leave you hanging. Who do you think was waiting for Maya in that Manhattan penthouse? A rival Arab billionaire hungry for revenge against the Al Hassan family? A Silicon Valley giant who once rejected her and now wanted back in? Or someone else entirely? Drop your guess in the comments. And while you're at it, don't just watch silently. Subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can see what happens when dignity collides with power. Because the truth will finally come out. And trust me, it will change everything. The Manhattan skyline shimmered through the tinted windows of the car as it pulled up to the glass tower on 57th Street. It was 2 a.m, but the city never slept, and neither did people chasing power. Maya adjusted her suit jacket, ignoring the fatigue in her bones. David trailed beside her, whispering in disbelief. Who even calls a meeting at this hour? Maya, we've barely been off the plane. Investors are panicking. The stock. Forget the stock. Maya cut him off, her voice low, unshaken. This is bigger than Wall Street numbers. This is about the future. And the people waiting upstairs, they know it. The elevator shot upward, floor after floor, until the doors opened to a private penthouse. Glass walls, midnight view of the Hudson, and a long table lit by a single strip of golden light. Around it sat figures Maya recognized instantly. Leaders of 3 major private equity firms, a Silicon Valley billionaire whose rejection years earlier had fueled her fire, and at the head of the table a woman in an emerald dress. Not just any woman. Princess Amira Al-Fayed, the rival. From Qatar. Her presence alone was a declaration of war against the Al Hassan dynasty. The same family that had mocked Maya just 48 hours earlier. Maya Richardson. Amira said, her accent sharp, regal. Welcome. I saw the footage. You walked out of Khalid's palace like a queen refusing crumbs. I admire that. She smiled thinly. And I have an offer. One that makes her $500 million look like pocket change. David nearly dropped his tablet. You're serious? Amira slid a folder across the table. Inside, a funding package worth $1.2 billion. Cash, partnerships, regional distribution, everything Novatech needed, and more. Maya stared at the document, but her eyes stayed on Amira. Why me? Why now? Because Khalid laughed, Amira said coldly. And when he laughed at you, he embarrassed us all. He reminded the world that in his palace, women have no place. But here, she leaned forward. Here, we write new rules. The room was silent, heavy with the weight of history. Maya's hand hovered over the folder. The offer was undeniable. But it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about legacy, about rewriting the rules of power, on her terms. Now let me ask you, watching this, what would you do? Would you take the $1.2 billion and declare victory? Or would you hold out for something even greater? Comment your answer. I want to know if you grab security or gamble for legacy. And while you're at it, smash that like button and subscribe right now, because this decision will shock you. Maya sat back, calm, unhurried. I appreciate your offer, princess. Truly. But let me be clear, I don't need a savior. I need partners. People who believe in this company not because they hate Khalid, but because they believe in me. For a second, the air tightened. Nobody told royalty no. Not in the city. Not in any. But Amira smiled, a small, genuine smile this time. Then let us be partners. Equal partners. 50-50. Together, we crush Khalid. Together, we set the standard. And just like that, the tide turned. By sunrise, headlines were exploding across every platform. Novatech secures $1.2 billion partnership with Qatari royal family. The same pundits who had mocked her 48 hours earlier now scrambled to rewrite their narratives. The stock rebounded, then surged higher than before. Investors who doubted her were begging to buy back in. And across the Gulf, in a gilded palace, the Al Hassan family sat in silence, realizing they hadn't just lost a deal. They had lost the future. Because Maya didn't just reject them. She replaced them. Now pause for a second. Have you ever been underestimated, mocked, dismissed, only to rise higher than the ones who doubted you? That's what Maya just did on the global stage. And it's proof that sometimes walking away is the most powerful move you can make. But here's the twist that almost no one knew. Maya didn't stop at the deal. With Qatari partnership secured, she launched Project Horizon, a moonshot AI initiative that would redefine industries. Within a year, Novatech wasn't just worth billions. It was untouchable. And the Al Hassan family? They tried to come back to the table. They sent envoys, offered double the original deal, even hinted at an apology. Maya's response was short, sharp, final. Respect isn't negotiable. Think about that line. Respect isn't negotiable. Let that sink in. Now tell me, what do you think mattered more in the end? The $500 million she walked away from, or the respect she demanded? Drop your answer below. And if you've been with me through all three parts of this story, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe to Residential Stories like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because Maya's story isn't just about business. It's about life. It's about knowing your worth, refusing to shrink, and walking away from any table where respect isn't served. This is Residential Stories. Subscribe now because the next story will leave you speechless.